Hello everyone and welcome back to the Pumpkin Patch. I'm your host James Moser, and today on Days of Halloween, it's time to celebrate all things slasher. That's right, it's slasher night here on Days of Halloween, where we celebrate 4 movies and 1 Halloween and other media selection, all dedicated to slashers. But without further ado, let's stab straight on into the heart of Slasher Night. Our selection for the Halloween classic of the day goes to the 1976 film, The Town That Dreaded Sundown. On the bicentennial of our great nation, we were blessed, were we cursed? I don't really know which one you want to call it, with this little gem of a slasher movie. This movie is based loosely on the 1946 Texarkana Moonlight Murders that happened in Texarkana, Texas. Texas, not Arkansas, Texas. Because despite what the poster says, all of the events happened in Texarkana, Texas, not Texarkana, Arkansas. A fact that people to this day in Texarkana, Arkansas are still trying to get that removed from the movie poster. The film follows a group of police and a Texas Ranger, because again, Texas, not Arkansas, as they try to hunt down a killer just known as the Phantom in the film. In real life, the killer was known as the Phantom Killer. This burlap sack wearing menace attacked 8 people and killed 5. And other than the fact that the film takes a little bit of artistic license with the actual kills, the film really stays true to the source material. Source material that shows us that the killer was never identified and never caught. This film has such a lexicon of horror behind it that locals and the folklore of the local people have kind of reflected the truth as being the actual events of the movie instead of real life. Which is very odd considering the fact that to this day, every Halloween they play the film at Spring Lake Park, one of the parks where one of the murders occurred. Also, interesting fact about this film, the poster and the movie itself created such a look with the Phantom Killer that the costume department from Friday the 13th Part 2 used it as a reference for Jason in Part 2. Thought it was pretty crazy. Also, another interesting fact about this film is that it was released on Christmas Eve of 1976, which would have made for some pretty interesting family trips to the movie theater. Our selection for the overlooked horror film of the day goes to the 2009 film, Laid to Rest. Alright, Pumpkin Patch, it's time to go back to the 2000s in which we see a forgotten little slasher gem that follows Chrome Skull, a killer who has a metal skull mask attached to his face and who films all of his kills and sends it to the police in this weird game of cat and mouse. The film follows Princess, who is this woman who has amnesia, who wakes up in a morgue and is suddenly chased by Chrome Skull. Chrome Skull is bound and determined that she is going to be his next victim. How bound and determined? He chases this chick through the whole movie. The plotline of this film is not too deep. Just expect your normal slasher kind of movie here. Chrome Skull is hunting down people and killing them. Now, this film came out at a time when we were really desperate as a horror community for some new slasher icons to go up on that Mount Rushmore of horror. Mount Rush horror. I'm going to table this, but I'm going to come back to that. This was the time we saw Victor Crowley show up in Hatchet. We saw the world blessed with the gift that is Leslie Vernon from Behind the Mask. Chrome Skull was designed to actually fit in with this new blood of slashers. It's similar to what we had just a couple of years ago where Terrifier tried to go back to the original roots of just making a slasher film. But this film did go on to spawn a sequel that starred Scream Queen herself, Danielle Harris, but it never really got much past that, and unfortunately, we haven't seen any more Laid to Rest films since then. But this film is just a good, fun slasher film that definitely shows that Chrome Skull needs to be on the all-slasher team. I mean, not like first team, like he's maybe not coming off the bench either. I don't know if Coach Craven's going to call his number, but like he's on the bench, he's on the team. And you know, he's real happy about just being on the team, right? And honestly, it's just really good to see a new slasher and new blood in the slasher genre, where we dress up in costumes of them and just celebrate Halloween and spooky stuff in general. But Chrome Skull never really took off, because I mean, who in their right mind has a silver chrome skull mask? Cut. Our first selection for the late night double feature picture show takes us back to 1976 for Alice, Sweet Alice. We're really starting to get into the type of movie that I love. This 1970s weird, mysterious killer slasher movies. That thing is my jam. Alice, Sweet Alice sees a group of people at a Catholic church being hunted and haunted by a killer who's wearing a translucent mask and a yellow raincoat. They're bringing murder, they're bringing terror, they're not paying attention to any of the rules in the church, they're being loud, they're doing all the terrible things you're not supposed to be doing in church, especially to killing people. That, I'm pretty sure, is definitely on the top of the list. But this film is one of those video nasties from the 70s, the European banned horror films that were too intense for audiences. Mostly because it deals with a lot of intense subject matter. It's very hard to get into with just a little blurb on Days of Halloween, but the film runs a little bit deeper than you think it would. It's a very good, very intense, very stylish film that you definitely should watch. I can't recommend this movie highly enough. I know that I'm a sucker for those 70s horror films, especially the ones that come from Italy, but this film is an amazing testament to what slasher films could do. And it sort of became a blueprint for what slasher films would eventually become. Also, interesting fact, I love this movie a lot because it was one of those movies that came out in the 70s that had multiple titles. I don't really know why I love movies that have multiple titles in it, but it was. When it was originally made, it was supposed to be called The Communion. It was also released at some point as Holy Terror, but they eventually settled on Alice, Sweet Alice. But horror films nowadays really need to have multiple titles, because I think it's awesome. I mean, let us know down in the comments if you can think of horror films that don't have a separate title. What would be a good title for them if they did have a separate title? I think that's a lot of fun. I would love to actually see what you guys can come up with. And our next selection for the late night double feature picture show goes to the 2014 film It Follows. Alright, so we're about to explore a different style of slasher movie that's a little bit more difficult to kind of describe. It's different in that the killer only has one target at a time, and only the target can see them. No one else can. They're invisible to them. Now this killer comes at the victim ceaselessly, endlessly, slowly walking towards them without stopping. And only they can see them. And they take on the appearance of anyone that they want to. Maybe it's someone that the victim knows. Maybe it's a complete stranger so that they can sneak up on you. It's different for every single person. The film follows Jamie. She's a student and she's dating this new dude named Hugh. Only Hugh turns out to not be who he says he is, especially when they go out to see a movie and he starts seeing people that aren't actually there. Then he starts getting a little jumpy, a little sketchy, and very weird. And by weird, I mean he has sex with Jamie, he knocks her out with chloroform, he ties her up, and then wakes her up and explains to her that now that they've had sex, she is going to have a killer chasing after her ceaselessly that will not stop until they kill her. And the only way that she's going to be able to stop this killer is to have sex with someone else, basically cursing them with having to deal with the killer. And once they kill them, then they're gonna move on down that line and come back to her, and then back to him, and then back to whoever it was. This movie is sort of like one of those chain letters, just in reverse, and it's terrible. No one likes chain letters. No one. They're almost as annoying as those extended warranty things. But now, Jamie has a decision to make. She needs to decide, is she gonna pass this curse on to someone else, this death sentence to someone else? Is she gonna fight? Is she gonna run? And what is she gonna have to face with a killer that's seemingly like death and is just slowly, ceaselessly moving towards her until she dies? This movie is stylish, it's slick, it's still tense, and it's still got some genuine scares in it. But if you just don't overthink the film and you just go in and have fun with it, I think you'll really enjoy this film. Especially since it really makes you think what you would do in those particular situations. Me, for one, I would seriously consider maybe just, getting in a car or like a boat. Maybe to get on a plane. Can you get on a plane? Maybe they might show up on the plane. I don't know. Just go somewhere that it takes them forever to try to... And our selection for the Halloween and other media goes to the 2016 video game Dead by Daylight. by Behavior Interactive. Alright, for full disclosure, I just want to let you guys know I'm not a gamer. I don't play a lot of video games. I don't usually get super excited about video games. I don't really just jump in with both feet when it comes to video games. But in this particular instance, I am super into it because I love the idea of being able to play through the horror experience. This particular game doesn't have a storyline. You're not playing like a plotted story where you're trying to beat the game. This game is a player versus players style game. It's like head to head, where you either play one of two roles. You either play one of 4 survivors who are tasked with working together as a team to repair generators, which will then open one of 2 gates so that you can escape, or you get to be the killer and you get to hunt down all of the survivors. It all follows this idea that there is this thing called the entity, which brings all of the killers and all of the survivors together, and it just pits them against each other and feeds off the energy. It's the literal worst case of blood and circuses I've ever seen. And I watched the Hunger Games. This game also does something that a lot of games don't do. It lets you take a step further and allows you to actually play slashers from the pantheon of slasher killers. Because when you play this game, you can play as Freddy, Leatherface, Amanda from Saw, you can be the Nemesis from Resident Evil, Pyramid Head from Silent Hill, Pinhead, you can be the Demogorgon from Stranger Things, and most importantly, you get to play the MVP himself, the greatest slasher of all time, Michael Myers. For the survivors, you get to play a myriad of different characters, some original and some IPs as well. You get to play as characters from the Left 4 Dead video game, Resident Evil, Silent Hill. You can even play as Ash from Evil Dead. You can play as Laurie Strode. You can even play as my main man, Steve Harrington, for Stranger Things. And you can play him in a costume where he's dressed like Scoops Ahoy. Why haven't you bought this game yet? The game has a great series of perks and like items that you can find and kind of stack them all together so that you can try to increase your likelihood of surviving. But the killers can also do the same thing and make sure that they increase the likelihood of no one surviving. This game is available on all the platforms. It's also available on mobile. I've never played it on mobile, full disclosure, but it's really designed to be played on the PC. It is a fantastic game, very tense, and when you got a good group of 5 players playing this game, this thing is like living a horror film. It is fantastic, and I cannot recommend it enough. That does it, Pumpkin Patch. Those are our 4 movies and 1 Halloween and other media selection for Slasher Night. Let us know down below in the comments, did you like these films? We've chosen several slasher films over the past 2 seasons, so we try to bring together a group of kind of lesser known ones, or ones that we just feel like needs a little bit more attention. We hope that you enjoyed it, but let us know down below, are there some slasher films that no one's seen that you really enjoy that maybe we should shine a light on? We'd love to hear what you have to say. Slasher genre is probably one of our absolute favorite genres of horror here at the Fall Horsemen, but we want to hear what you have to say. If you like this episode, please give it a like, and if you like what we're doing here at the channel, please click or treat. That's where you like, share, subscribe, and you ring that notification bell. Also, stalk us on all the social media sites. We got a lot of spooky stuff going on here, and we love sharing it with everybody, and we would love to have you in the pumpkin patch to join in on all the fun. But if all you ever do is you watch these videos, we thank you so much, we love you, we hope that you're enjoying this, and we hope you're having a great spooky season. But thank you for watching, and thank you for riding with the Fall Horsemen, where Halloween lives and fall is forever. Alright, I'm out of here. And what is she going to have? Jurassic Park could be called Dinosaur Enclosure. No, that's dumb. They're doing all terrible things that you're supposed to actually Texarkana Mern. I really hope this red light pops. We'll see. I have no idea. I'm probably gonna have to do a lot of work in post to make this thing look cool. How many other pale imitations can I mention to, that's right, your Freddys, your Jasons, you can play please, if you would consider, for Slash-a-Night. I don't know why I said it like that. That was kind of dumb.